All right, welcome back to the second in my latest series of videos concerning dialing in sounds with the Line 6 Helix. In part one, I kind of went over an overview of what I wanted to do with this series, which was just dialing in different particular amps within our Helix in sort of the quickest, most streamlined fashion we could find. Because like I mentioned in that first video, a lot of people had this complaint saying, oh yeah, sure, you know, I watch people on YouTube and my patches never sound like some of these people dial their patches in, and it's too complicated or complex to dial the patches in. And my goal with this series is just to pick different amps or even different styles of sounds, as you'll see today, why I say that, since I've had a few requests to do something a little bit different here. And just dial it in as quickly as possible. Now, the first video went on a little bit longer because if you remember, anybody who's watched it, I talked about building a template first with some of the common things I do to just save myself the hassle of having to go and load all those blocks up every time I want to create a patch. Because there are some certain things that I always gravitate towards doing in my patches that just get me to where I want to be faster, right? So we'll go through that again. I'm not going to spend the time explaining all of that. I'm going to use my compressor at the end, studio comp, a little bit of reverb, maybe a little bit of delay, an EQ block at the end, set basically flat other than the high and low cut for now. We could possibly use that. It's not really the purpose of this video series is dialing that in. I've talked about it in some of my other series. So it's more just about getting a usable tone right away with kind of the stock default cab and as close to the default settings as possible with minimal tweaking, right? So what I had a lot of requests to do is to dial in some clean tones and edge of breakup type of sounds. And it was interesting because a lot of people were asking me for that. And I went, yeah, you know what? A lot of the stuff I have done has been dialing in crunch sounds, overdrive, distorted sounds, lead sounds. And I thought that's a really good topic. And I also had a bunch of people ask me, could you try using some different guitars, some single coil pickups, and taking a patch and seeing how it kind of responds to different guitars and different pickups. So I'm going to do all of that today. So yeah, I had all these requests to do some clean sounds. So let's dive into that. And I thought what I could do today is grab maybe a couple of the Fender style amps that are included in the Helix, and we'll dive into seeing how quickly we could dial something in usable there as far as a clean tone, just a general all-purpose good clean tone, nothing, not for any particular song, but something that could be adapted to a lot of situations, either live or in the studio. So I was thinking I'll try dialing something in right away with one of the Fender style amps, and maybe then once we have a sound working with that, just kind of pull up a completely different Fender style amp and see how quickly we can just use what we set up and swap amps to get slightly different tones, okay? So let's come over to HX Edit, as we usually do, and you'll see here I have my blank patch. And like I said, last time I spent a fair bit of time in the video creating my templates. So that's already done. Like I said, I'm not going to explain what I did here. If you haven't seen the first video in this series, which was dialing in the Lone Star, the Mesa Lone Star, what's it called, the Cali, Texas channel 2. Go back and watch that, because the whole first part of that video is just getting my template set up, and there's a lot of explanation to it. I don't want to waste time here and go on for another 35 minutes talking about that. Here, let's just get to what we have to do. So if you notice up here, under my user 3 folder, my 01A patch or preset is just template. So I'm going to click that, and you'll see basically I have this set up with my compressor at the end, EQ, verb, delay, my split block thing that I've talked about in a number of videos with no amps. So I'm just going to copy that, boom, and I'm going to come down to 03A, which is this new preset, totally blank. Sorry, 03B. Let's go. There was something in 03A. So 03B it is then. So this is a totally blank preset, and I'm just going to paste my template in there. And thank you for asking, HX Edit. But yes, I would like to overwrite that blank template. So again, I have just my utility mastering style compressor at the end set very subtly. I keep getting comments on this, just as a side point, from people saying, you really shouldn't put a compressor at the end. You don't want to compress delay tails and blah, you know, and I keep having to go back and answer. And that's being done very deliberately. For anybody who hasn't watched my previous videos on this, I've talked about it a lot. So I understand as a general accepted practice, a lot of people don't like to compress after effects. I'm doing it for a specific purpose. I like the glued in sound it gives, much like a mastering engineer or even a mix engineer would do. A little side point on that, if you have somebody come in a studio with a real guitar, tube guitar amp with a pedal board, and they record all their effects down to tape or into Pro Tools or whatever the recording medium is, the mixing engineer at mixdown may very well add compression to that sound, right? And it's going to affect the delays and the reverbs and any other effects that are on there. So this is really no different a situation than that. Again, though, for somebody who doesn't like it, it's as simple as grabbing that, moving it like so. Now it's compression isn't after the effect. So it's that simple. I like it here. As I've stated many times before, this is all down to personal preference. And by no means am I saying that my way is the only way and nobody else can do what they want. So please, do whatever you feel is best for your sound. But for me, this is what I like to do. So there's my template. So, like I did in the last video, let's come up here. And like I said, the whole purpose of this is to see how quickly we can dial the tone in with a given amp as close to the default settings, just to show people that, you can get this great sound of the Helix right away with very little work. So I'm going to pull up and say, let's try out the Tweed Blues Norm, okay, which I believe is the 410 Bassman combo. So let's pull that up. There's a Bright as well. Maybe we'll experiment with that shortly. So the reason I do the amp and cab combo is just so I can see what cab, line 6, and what mic they're using on that cab settings. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over and pick just the amp without the cab, simply because I want to have the flexibility of having the cab separate in case I want to swap it out maybe for an IR, or I want to add a second cab or whatever. I don't want to be locked into having the amp and the cab together. So for the cab though, I'm going to go to this block. We do want to add this cab, and I'm going to come down to my cab block, and I believe that was the 410 Tweed P10R. Okay, and it comes up with the same settings. 160 ribbon mic, 2 inches back. Great, wonderful. So right now, all I'm doing is I'm going to turn the delay off for now. I'll keep a little bit of the reverb on, like I always have. I'm using the Ganymede reverb, a decay of 5, mix of down at about 23, which is kind of low. I'll bump it up to 30. EQ is simply doing a low cut at 100 hertz and a high cut at 12 kilohertz. We may play with that. Everything else is flat. And like I said, the compressor is just gluing things together a little bit. So let's hear what this sounds like right out of the gate. I'm using Godin Progression Plus guitar on the neck pickup, just so we can get the single coil. This does have a JB Junior mini humbucker in the bridge, but I'm going to focus the sound around the single coils for this, because I've had a lot of requests to kind of dial these kind of tones in. Let's see what this comes up with just as is. This is basic. There's nothing being done with the split crossover. Everything is balanced perfectly equal. So this is essentially just hearing the absolute default settings of the Bassman normal channel through its default cab with its default mic at the default distance. The only thing you're hearing is a little bit of reverb, the lows and high cuts, which almost everybody is adding, right? And a touch of compression at the end just to glue everything together. Okay, and that sounds like this. There's really absolutely nothing wrong with that sound. I mean, again, like I said in the first one, I could almost take that and make a record with it. Might I have to tweak it in the mix? Possibly. But that, to me, is akin to having the same Bassman amp in the room and plugging straight into it and just kind of looking at the knobs and saying, okay, let's see what this sounds like, right? And you go, yeah, it's a usable tone, right? But there's a lot of little things we can do to maybe tweak this to a place we think it's closer to what we want, right? Now, let's just do this, though, just for the naysayers out there. I'm going to turn the EQ off, so the low and high cuts gone. Nothing is being done with this. I could turn all of this off, and nothing is going to change. I'm going to turn the reverb off, and this is basically the default settings of this Bassman amp as it comes up. That's the way that amp sounds. So for anybody who says, you know, you can't pull up a sound out of the Helix just with the default settings on an amp, I think that kind of proves them wrong. Now, is that the sound you definitely want? No. But you know, there's something interesting to be said here. I've never pulled up even a real tube amp, plugged it in, played through it, and just said, well, I'm not allowed to turn any knobs or change the EQ or change the volume or the overdrive settings. You're always going to tweak. So, I mean, yes, the Helix is an amazing unit, but to really get what we want, we're going to have to turn some knobs. But this kind of proves that this can sound just amazing right out of the box with absolutely no changes. Now, are there things about this that I would like to change? Well, sure, and let's go back. I'm going to add my little sections on here that I like and enjoy. So there's it with the delay now. That's that same sound with a little bit of reverb, a little bit of delay, the high and low cut, and a touch of compression, right? Nothing wrong with that sound. Now, using the split block, I could say, well, what am I hearing here? Maybe I'm finding the bottom end slightly too much and maybe not quite enough shimmer. Maybe the bottom's okay and we want just a little more shimmer up top. So I have my crossover set at 650. Maybe if I come and add like a dB or a dB and a half to the contour, the upper part of the signal, everything above 650 hertz. Let's see what that sounds like. Move the pickup position around on that. That sounds really nice to me. There's a little bit of sparkle there now. And all I had to do is take the gain on the upper frequencies of the split crossover and bump it up a dB and a half. The bottom end seems fine to me. Okay, let's go with some different pickup selectors. So that's neck pickup. Let's go with neck and middle. Middle position. Bridge and middle, keeping in mind that this is a JB Junior Duncan mini humbucker. Excuse the garbage notes in there, but you get the idea now. So this is sounding all right. And let's just go to the mini humbucker in the bridge. Obviously a little more breakup there as it's being hitting the amp a little harder. Totally usable tones there. Now, we haven't even gone in and touched anything in the cab. It's the 160 ribbon, 2 inches off, nothing else. We haven't even touched anything in the amp. Now, some people say, well, what about a little bit more of a slightly edge of breakup type sounds? And do a little McDonald's McCafe commercial here for you. we could start driving the amp more. Now, one thing in here, the master, by default, these are the default settings of this amp, by the way. Drive at 4.2, bass 5.4, all the tone stack around, you know, give or take a little bit off the middle. The presence is a little low. Channel volume is just going to affect how loud our signal is, and I'm just looking in my DAW here. I got lots of headroom to go here, so even if I crank that up, get up to about -6 on the peaks. So the master's on 10, so it's mimicking the power tube distortion coming through. Let's see what happens as we start moving our drive up. Not changing anything else. Let's bump this up a bit and see. A little more breakup now. Let's keep rolling that up. Mimic cranking one of these Bassman up, right? Now, mind you, that's all on the neck pickup. Let's go through a few more pickup selectors here. So that's neck and middle pickup. How does this clean up? Sounds great. Let's go to the middle position. Bridge in middle. And right to the mini humbucker on the bridge. Okay, so we can see all of these sounds are working, right? Let's crank it right up and see what happens when we just crank everything to 10. That's with the neck pickup. Let's go to the next position. Middle. Bridge and middle. And just the mini humbucker in the bridge. Now, you know, that's typical of a Fender style amp, right? When you get everything just jacked right up, it gets a little bit of that ratty, almost abrasive distortion, which, you know, hey, that's what you're after, then that's the place to look for it. But, you know, if I was dialing this in and I wanted that edge of breakup, I'd probably pull the master maybe back to 9, maybe pull the drive back a little bit. Neck pickup. Very nice usable tone, and we haven't even touched the tone stack, right? I mean, what happens if we start playing around with that? Jack the presence up. Pretty typical, it gets kind of ratty sounding. Treble from 6.4 up there. Fine, middle. And we can see we can, you know, shape our tone even more bass. Maybe that would be nice on the bridge pickup. Again, you know, lots of flexibility in there. So simple to dial that in, right? Let me grab a couple other guitars and try this with some humbuckers and maybe some P90s and see how it sounds and translates to that. Be right back. So here it is with some P90s. That was the bridge pickup. Go to the middle position. And neck. Again, obviously it's going to be different with different guitars. You may tweak it for this particular guitar versus using the single coils, you know, and that's fine. We can make those little adjustments within our HX Edit or on our Helix, right? Let's try a couple other guitars. So here we are with semi-hollow body, Montreal Premier. Bridge pickup, middle position. And neck. And we'll try a Les Paul style guitar too. So here we have Lawler pickups in this, El Reyos to be exact, on a Gibson. This is sort of their upper end Summit Classic guitar. So yeah, on the bridge. Middle position. And neck position. Okay, so there you have it, a lot of different guitars. Still sounds good. It's obviously going to sound different pickups, but a lot of people requested to hear some of these sounds through a bunch of different guitars, and I thought that, you know, it'd give them just that, and it gives us a better view of how a patch like this might work if we were using it throughout an evening, let's say, with our band, and, you know, just by changing guitars out, we can get a lot of different sounds at our disposal. Okay, I'm just going to switch back to the other guitar that I originally started with. Okay, so I'm back with the original Progression Plus, which had the mini humbucker Duncan JB Jr. in the bridge. I thought what we could do here, I'm going to save this as just Bassman, I guess. And I'm going to copy this, and we'll come down to another blank preset and paste it in. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the Tweed Blues norm out for the Deluxe norm. Okay, and I'll change the cab out for the 112 US Deluxe. And again, that comes with the same mic, 160 ribbon, 2 inches back. So we've touched nothing else, but I'm going to see how this reacts just swapping to this. You know what, and let's just rename this while we're at it. Deluxe, and we'll save that. We'll see how that sounds. It's going to go to the neck position. I'm just going to crank the channel volume up. Turn the delay off just so we can get a... It's a usable clean sound right off the bat, right? I don't really feel a need to change a lot. Let's see how that breaks up as we... Really nice tone here. Keep in mind, I'm still boosting everything above my crossover point of 650 hertz, just up by 1.5 dB, just to give it a little bit of sparkle. If we don't do that, this is what it sounds like. Again, usable, but I just kind of prefer this up a touch. Kind of opens the sound up, gives it a little more sparkle without it getting harsh, right? Okay, what happens if we kind of crank this up some more? And again, this will clean up with our volume knob, right? And that's a real testament to Line 6's modeling ability, right? This is acting like I remember when I've played through Fender tube amps before, right? So really nice to have. try some different pickup selections. So that was the neck. This is neck and middle. This is just middle. Bridge in middle. And just bridge. Great sounds all around, right? See if we crank it right up, back to neck position. Again, the sound's gonna clean up nice. Even just with, going from pick, aggressive pick to just finger style. Or rolling the guitar volume back. Really nice stuff. Again, I might pull that back to 9 on there, 9 on the master, right? Just maybe get a little bit of that raspiness out of the... So it shows we can really adapt this to our playing style, hitting soft. It's very dynamic, right? Just like a tube amp. So really, I think that's a pretty good testament to what Line 6 has done for us here with these amp models. Again, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Like, some of my other videos where we're getting into the crossovers and maybe tweaking EQs and tweaking compressors. And I think a lot of people might think that those things have to be done to get it to sound good, and that's not true, right? We can simply pull up default settings, add a touch of reverb if we so desire. Again, if I come in here and just simply turn everything off except for the amp and cab, as I have it where I simply just push the drive up to 9. Sorry about those horrid notes. So lots of tones in there. That's with everything else off, right? So that's just the default settings that come up just simply with the drive. Pulled up a couple little twists that I put in. have that. A beautiful sound, very Fenderish, and just super well done. Line 6. Okay, so I hope that helps somebody with that. I hope that was useful. I don't know. Maybe it was just more of me rambling on, playing a bunch of nonsense on the guitar and yattering on too much. But I hope not. I hope somebody gets something from that. I'm going to continue with this series. I'm going to pick some different amps. I had somebody ask me to do the new Friedman model. So I may do that next, but I keep throwing the ideas out, and I'm happy to cover them and see. Again, the whole purpose of this series is just to see how quickly we can dial in a usable tone with just basically as close to the default settings, minimal tweaking, right? But again, go back to the first video and check out why I set up my template the way I did. I really am going for a really quick workflow. You know, if I'm working on an album, if I'm working on a session, if I'm dialing in a patch for somebody else, if I'm dialing in a patch for live use, I want to be able to do it as quickly as possible. I don't want to get bogged down with the gadgets. I don't want to get bogged down with twiddling knobs, right? I want to make music, and that's why I think if we can come up with a quick workflow that works for us and gets us to playing faster with a sound that's inspiring to us, that's really what it's all about, and that's what this video series is kind of about. So I hope I'm getting that across, and maybe I'm failing miserably, but tell me if I am. Anyways, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I appreciate the support. I said this wasn't going to be a long video. I lied. It's long again. It seems like I can't stop talking, so thanks again for tuning in. Please hit the subscribe button, share the videos. Appreciate all the support, and we'll see you guys again very soon.